Glasmas is the story of Maya Kitajima's love for acting, her rivalry with the prodigious actress Ayumi Himekawa, and her shared ambition of playing the Crimson Goddess in the phantom masterpiece by the same name. It's by mangaka Susue Miuchi and has been running since 1975. It's one of the oldest manga still running today. It's not the oldest, that honor likely goes to Gogo 13, but unless I'm missing something, it is at least the oldest running shoujo. Glasmas might also be known for its complicated production history. It has gone on hiatus multiple times throughout the decades, sometimes for several years, which is why it's not that long compared to giants like One Piece, which started around 2 decades later, or Osamu Akimoto's Reiko Reiki manga, which started in 1976 and ended in 2016 with no less than 200 volumes. Glasmas has also moved homes to a magazine that went under just a few years later, and its 50 volume was delayed indefinitely in 2013. Production troubles aside, this manga has inspired multiple adaptations, including a couple of anime and live-action series, but this video will focus almost exclusively on the 1984 anime series. You can do it, if you want it, I do want to include a little bit of what I've seen of the 2005 version as well, because Glasmas is a story that emphasizes how performance and interpretation can vary depending on the person, and it's interesting to see how different decades can approach that. It's important to note that Glasmas operates on a level of melodrama that requires most of its cast to be, at the very least, mildly insane. Luckily, the soundtrack and the overall execution of the show are just the right amount of intense, dramatic, and delightfully ridiculous to pull it off. The show starts when Maya is 13 and covers around 2 to 3 years of her growth. But in a way, it all starts with Chigusa Tsukikage, a once renowned actress who played the role of the Crimson Goddess so well she made it legendary, and the creator gave her the rights of the play before passing away. However, after an accident ends Tsukikage's time in the spotlight, many years go by before she finally finds a suitable candidate to revive the Crimson Goddess in our beloved Maya, whose passion and apparent disregard for humans' mortality certainly causes an impression. Maya as a protagonist is basically the plain girl and an underdog. Acting is presented as Maya's biggest passion and also as the one thing she's good for.
とも綺麗じゃないし、頭も良くないし、演劇学校へ通うお金もないし、スタイルだって良くないし、でもお芝居をやりたいんです。女優になるんです。私、女優になりたいんです。
So good though, she provokes envy and or incites fear in the heart of any actor who dares to cross paths with her.
あの子、怖い子ね。そうね。あの子の出る舞台は荒らされるわ。
This is reflect in Maya's acting being called vandalism on stage.
そう、舞台荒らしという定めがね。
Which basically means Maya is so talented, she steals the spotlight, overshadowing everyone else.
あの子は同じ演劇をやる者にとっては脅威よ。若いうちはその才能ゆえに妬まれ、あちこちの舞台から弾き出されて木枯らしの中を歩くことになるでしょう。でもね、原田さん、やがて世間があの子を認めないわけにはいかなくなる。
大衆があの子を望むようになるからね。
Maya's rival, Ayumi Himekawa, is also determined to play the Crimson Goddess, and she has what it takes to become a serious contender. In many ways, Maya and Ayumi are opposites. At the beginning of the story, Ayumi is established as remarkably beautiful and is acknowledged as a genius. Meanwhile, Maya is considered as plain or average looking, is clumsy, and is regarded as a good-for-nothing. Ayumi is rich and has famous and successful parents, which undoubtedly help her break into the business. Maya basically comes for nothing and has nothing but acting. This is something she has in common with Tsukikage.
演劇よ。 演劇があるから私は生きていられる。どんなことがあっても。
Ayumi is expected to have flawless performances, and she always delivers, while Maya often surprises for being unconventional but fresh and memorable. With everyone being a star in that house, one will expect some drama or scandal, but Ayumi lives in a nice and drama-free environment, with a mother that supports her ambition and who takes Ayumi seriously when she declares that, as actresses, they're rivals. Maya actually had to run away from home to pursue acting, leaving behind a mother that's originally very supportive. This is absolutely a recurring source of melodrama. These differences are reflected in the girls' personalities, like in how Ayumi is confident, where Maya is insecure. Maya and Ayumi are also more similar than they realize, particularly in how much they both respect and frankly fear each other. While their approaches are different, they are presented as equally genius by the narrative, and when they face each other on the stage, they both walk away believing the other won the battle. And they sure as hell are entertaining to watch.
北島マヤ、こんな形の戦いになろうとは思いもよらなかった。
Tsukikahe choosing Maya as a candidate for the Crimson Goddess means she also becomes her mentor. Just like the prominent coaches in its dramatic shoujo predecessor, Attack Number 1, Tsukikahe's methods are pretty questionable. Nothing is off the table if it helps Maya get into character, no matter how dangerous. And Maya herself is willing to go to extreme lengths to understand a character. Onlookers usually see this as scary or as maybe going too far, but that doesn't stop anyone.
先生とマヤを見てると怖いわ、私。
Tsukikahe also has very poor health, which is also a source of melodrama. There's a group of girls who also study under Tsukikahe, who are close to Maya, even if we don't see them much. Rei in particular stands out as a reliable figure, and the kind of shoujo character who's cool, has a more boyish presentation, and sometimes even takes male roles, and of course, steals the hearts of the ladies. Besides the rivals and Tsukikahe, the one main character I haven't mentioned yet is Masumi Hayami, who's the head of Daito Entertainment and really wants to get the rise of the Crimson Goddess. I suppose because his father is obsessed with it and Masumi was raised to live for him, basically. He's not alone in trying to get the rise of the blade. Masumi has an ally in Onodera, who's an important director who's supposed to be very talented, but she's too busy laughing evilly and sabotaging Tsukikahe, who refuses to give them the rise to ever prove it. One of Masumi's main roles is basically being Daddy Long Legs, as he acts as Maya's anonymous benefactor, so she can eventually go to high school and focus on her craft despite being broke. Masumi is also Maya's love interest despite being 11 years older than her. Regrettably, I will say that the appeal of this romance doesn't seem to be in spite of the age gap, because everything from their character design, the way they interact, their level of experience, and their places in the world, even how he brings attention to this gap by constantly calling her Chibi-chan or little girl, seems designed to highlight how much of a kid Maya is and how much she still has to grow, especially when compared to Masumi.
どうかしてるぞ、早見ます。相手は10いくつも年下の少女だぞ。俺ともあろうものが。俺ともあろうものが。
She does have a non-disturbing romantic option called Sakura Koji, who's generally a nice boy. He definitely does his part in adding some melodrama though, because clearly we can never have too much melodrama.
君のためじゃないか。もっと自分を大事にしなきゃ。
ダメよ、できないわ。私、月影のみんなが好きなの。
僕よりも。
Regardless, the romance doesn't really progress much in this show, and it's left unresolved. Purple can be a color of royalty, which is fitting for Ayumi, but in media, it can also be used to foreshadow either death or a big change. Ayumi wears purple before facing Maya on the stage for the first time, and then walks away thinking she has never been defeated before this moment. Purple is also very present in the scene where Tsukigahara reveals the true nature of the Crimson Goddess to Maya, helping elevate the role to something otherworldly.
マヤ、火が動きますか？悲鳴を上げますか？紅天女は自分が人間だということを忘れることができて初めて演じられる。今これを演じられる人など一人もいやしない。
It's fitting given that the Crimson Goddess isn't actually human, and this atmosphere also helps selling the role both as something legendary and as sort of the ultimate role.
芸を磨くのです。千も万もの役をこなせるようにならなければ、紅天女はとても。
先生、教えてください。紅天女は一体どんな人間なんですか？
紅天女は人間ではありません。勾配、梅の木です。
There's a very important purple rose Maya often receives from her secret fan. Maya refers to this fan as Mr. Purple Rose, and for her, his constant support offers the comfort and motivation she needs to face the roughness in her path. Occasionally, purple is also in their clothes to quickly reveal his identity and to connect this fan to Maya. You can tell the 80s version was done in the 80s, especially with that extremely 80s opening. In other words, this was a modernization back in the day. Still, the modernization of the 2005 version stands out more, because adapting the material to the sensibilities of the time require more notable aesthetical changes like some character redesigns, different color palettes and fashion, giving characters flip phone I guess, among other things. In this sense, it's interesting to see which characters' designs got little to no changes. If you are nostalgic for the 90s or are interested in a longer anime series that covers more story and has more material to work with, this version might be for you. The first half of the 2005 version covers the entirety of the 80s show with some extra scenes, so that's what I'll be focusing on. While the 80s show more often creates drama with music, lighting that sometimes looks like stage lighting, close-ups, sparkles, and so on, the 2005 version relies a lot more on dialogue and sometimes, frankly unnecessary exposition to get the job done. The 2005 version has its moments of being over the top, but it's generally more grounded than the 80s version. This can have some interesting results, but it can also mean that there's a lot more realistic crying and sad monologues, both to create drama and as a way to showcase good acting, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but to me, it can feel a little bit like...
Am I supposed to say, that's okay, I don't mind? I don't mind! Well, I mind! I mind big time!
The 2005 version does have a cool transformation sequence that shows Maya putting on a mask to get in character, in a way that feels mystical and also like a homage to its 70s origins with the creepy empty eyes. The 80s version doesn't have this, but I'm especially fond of the way it can convey Maya getting into the role as something beautiful and magical, while also feeling like she's being possessed by forces beyond her comprehension.
ねえ、20日お祭りだから何か楽しいことをしようよ。そうだよ、みどりさん、何かしようよ。
そうだね。何がいいかしら。大勢楽しめるのがいいね。趣向は何なりと。お金のことならいくらでもいいよ。私が出すから。
In general, I feel like the 80s tendency of being over the top and its emphasis on high emotions really benefits the story. The 2005 version is effective in showcasing Maya's talent, and it has its moments of versatility.
知ってる？川本先輩、恋人がいるんですって。
意地悪く。
知ってる？川本先輩、恋人がいるんですって。
However, I think the 80s version is more effective in showcasing versatility of emotions and selling Ayumi's image of genius Ojusama. I love her eyebrows, but I'm never entirely convinced by her 2005 version. There's so many things we could discuss with this series. I'm pretty sure I'm even forgetting some things. But at least for now, I want to end this with something I haven't mentioned yet that you might be wondering. Why is this called Glassmas? Well,
ガラスの仮面。
そう、脆くて儚いガラスの仮面だからすぐに壊れて素顔が覗く。そのガラスの仮面をかぶり続けられるかどうかで役者の才能が決まるんじゃないのかな。
ガ